Hi, my name is Aaron, this is my show Reeducation, and today we're going to switch gears a little bit. Today we're going to talk about something awesome, something amazing, something delicious. Of course, we're talking about frosty chocolate milkshakes. You know, those delicious drinks that you might have on a hot day that sometimes get all over your face or your entire body, depending on the circumstances. Now, I know I'm being a little bit cheeky, a little bit facetious. We're actually going to talk about dousing reactionaries, racists, bigots, homophobes, and probably the worst dregs of human society with a delicious drink, and how somehow that's violence. Now, I'm not going to endorse milkshaking on this channel. I think that milkshaking is technically illegal and technically assault and violence, though I don't really see how you could compare that with any real form of violence, but for the sake of the law, it is. And we don't condone violence on this channel. It's not okay for someone to say something and have the reaction be violence. It's not okay if somebody milkshakes someone, and it's not okay if someone punches an individual just for them expressing their freedom of speech. That is illegal. That is against the rules. That is against the law. And somebody that does something like that, like punching a reactionary or pouring a milkshake on an asshole, is technically committing an act of violence. And you shouldn't do that. It's very naughty. Very, very naughty. But that's not really the issue here. The issue is that we're somehow conflating the whole idea of milkshaking someone with an actual violent act. I've actually seen people conflating this idea of pouring a delicious milkshake on someone or punching a neo-Nazi with genocide. Oh yes, there are people out there that actually believe this. The theory goes that if you're hitting someone, then it's not a far stretch to believe that that could be institutionalized. It could be made okay for you to hit those people. And then that's the start of a genocide. In essence, milkshaking someone could lead to the next Holocaust. There are people out there that actually believe this stuff. And it's not hard to understand why. Everywhere in the media, it's being projected that the left is crazy. They've gone out of their minds. They're losing their control. They're attacking right-wingers at an extreme rate. They're stopping us from being able to have our freedom of speech. And they're going around pretending that genders are not genders, or whatever the hell it is exactly that right-wingers believe. But they're making the left seem like the type of people that would go around violently attacking people for a difference of belief. And it's just not the case. The idea that somehow pouring a delicious frosty beverage on someone's lapel could lead to a genocide is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And even conflating it to something like actual violence, like hitting someone, is again the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Throwing eggs and dumping milkshakes is childish at best, would ruin your clothes at worst, but is not necessarily violence. It's not something that can actually hurt you. But for some reason, all of these alpha males, these individuals who somehow take pride in thinking that they're strong and powerful and tough, they get a little drop of this milk on their lapel and they turn into whiny little sissies. All of a sudden, they melt like fucking snowflakes. They can't fucking take it. They can't handle a little bit of milk on their lapel because they are the cucks. They are the little bitches. They are the reactionaries. They're the ones that get butthurt. They're the ones that get ass pained about minor things. And they always have. This idea that somehow right-wingers are the new punk, or that they have thicker skin than everyone else and they're so hardcore, is fucking laughable. They talk about how they hate echo chambers, and yet they can't even for a second listen to an opposing viewpoint without freaking out and considering it to be some sort of genocide. People just having sex with other individuals that they like that are of a different race is considered a genocide. You can't talk in a real way about abortion, they get triggered. You can't talk in a real way about climate change, they get triggered. You can't talk in a real way about sexuality and gender, or they really get triggered. They can't handle having real conversations. All they can do is hurl insults. And then, when somebody does something to them, like throwing a milkshake at them, they collapse. They can't handle that. That would mean that the public are able to actually see these fools for what they are. Messy, diaper-filling, crybaby bitches. That's what they are. And I'm not talking about the general right. I'm not talking about the working class people. I'm not talking about the public. They're being led by these fucking no-minds. I'm talking about the professional reactionaries. The people that are doing this for a living. The people that are making money off of this. They can't handle the tiniest bit of scrutiny. And they're convincing all of you that you can't either. But I have more faith in all of you than that. I think that right-wingers aren't that fucking stupid, that they aren't that fucking petty, and that they can handle getting a little bit of milk on themselves without crying about it. Yes, of course, it is violence. Yes, of course, it is technically assault, and it is against the law. And anybody that throws a punch at a Nazi, or anybody that dumps a milkshake on someone, should get punished by that law. That's the way things are. And I don't condone anybody going around and doing vigilante justice. That, of course, is not going to help anything. It's going to make us look bad. But it's definitely going to make the right look bad as well. They're going to look like they can't handle themselves in a fight, or they can't handle getting a little bit dirty. All of these rugged, manly men who go on and on about the good old days, if their grandfathers had seen them cry about getting some milk on their shirts, each one of their grandfathers would pull off their belt, and the world isn't here to pat you on your head and tell you everything is going to be okay every time someone does any tiny little slight against you. If someone comes up to your mother and calls them a cunt, and you hit them for that, or dump a milkshake on them for that, I'm not shedding any fucking tears for that person. I'm not thinking that that person is somehow being systemically oppressed. I'm thinking they were being an asshole, and they got their just desserts. Of course, institutionalizing this behavior is not something I condone either. I don't think that we should be telling bands of roaming anarchists to go around with milkshakes, throwing them at idiots. Because, yes, that can have real societal problems. If we are systemically making it acceptable to go around committing violence on behalf of your political ideology against people just using their freedom of speech, then that is wrong. So institutionalizing it is damaging. But some random person, some random teenager running up to you and smacking an egg on your head because you're a racist, bigoted, homophobic piece of shit isn't something that's on my concern list. It's not one of the things that I find even remotely important. I like the idea that somebody was actually able to get close to those fucking morons and actually make them dirty. I like the idea that Richard Spencer was punched in the face. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't have been. I also don't see any reason why the person that punched him in the face shouldn't suffer the consequences and be charged with assault. They knew what the consequences were going into it, and they should be willing to suffer those consequences if it does come down to that. Right-wingers, if someone does something and assaults you or someone in your family, and you take violent acts against them, you know that you might be suffering the consequences of the judicial system. You know that you might be thrown in jail, fined, or worse for doing that. And yet, it doesn't stop you from doing it because it's the right thing to do. Sometimes the right thing is illegal. And sometimes you have to suffer the consequences. Be a man. Stand up for the things that you believe in and take your lumps when you are given them. But the last thing that all of you need to do is run around crying like you're some sort of martyr or like you're some sort of victim, being victimized by the left wing. The people that want equality and justice and freedom, those people, somehow you're being victimized by them. I'm sorry, but that's just not the case. What you're doing is you're using your freedom of speech as a bludgeon to hit people over the fucking head with. You're using it as a way to harass and single out and victimize people that are actually oppressed, people in actually horrible situations. The Nazis are using this as a way to mask their white supremacy. This is the exact same thing that happened during World War II. During any time that fascism or Nazism or reactionary radical beliefs start to gain popularity on the right, this is what you always see. Somehow, the social justice warriors are, at the same time, pathetic, weak, ineffectual cucks, but also strong, powerful, domineering, and taking control of the entire world. Both of those things somehow, in the fascist brain, have to be working at the same time. They have to both be true, even though only one of those dichotomies really fucking can be. Smashing an egg on someone's face isn't going to kill them. Throwing a milkshake on someone isn't going to create a genocide. Killing someone is going to kill them. Promoting a genocide is going to promote a genocide. Those are the things that we should be watching out for. Those are the things that we should be stopping. And as far as right-wing versus left-wing extremist and terrorist acts go, the left just simply don't do it. Yeah, there are a few eggs thrown here and there. Yes, a few people's lapels did get stained. But no one comes even close in comparison to the amount of right-wing terrorist attacks that are happening in the United States every single month. Hardly a week goes by without us hearing about some white nationalist that got an AR-15 and slaughtered a group of people, and how killing 4-year-old baby girls is fine so long as you consider them to be a womb for terrorists. The vast majority of terrorist attacks that happen in the United States happen because of right-wing extremists. But that's not you. That's not the general public. That's a small minority of people. That's not the working class right-winger. You're being lumped into that with everyone else. You aren't the problem. The left-wingers aren't the problem. The problem are those professional reactionaries pushing individuals to go to that line. The problem is the elites creating an aura, a space, a system that endorses doing things like that. You, the general public, aren't to blame for any of this. But the ideas are still creating this mess. Those ideas are still killing people every fucking week. And it's time that we make it stop. And if throwing some milkshakes at someone or punching some Nazis helps us to do that, well, I definitely don't think that I'm going to complain a whole lot about it. At least, that's the way I look at it. My name is Aaron, this is my show Reeducation, and if you do get a chance, please check out my Patreon. Every dollar does help fund this show, and I honestly do mean that. This would not be possible without the kind, courteous donations from my patrons. And if you want to be one of them too, please take a look, check it out, and hopefully I'll see you there. Anyway, my name is Aaron, this is my show Reeducation, thanks for watching.